I think the Vivaldi is probably the most impressive and the most enjoyable. Um, for me, it was kind of a bit of a bucket list experience to record the Malcolm Arnold because I'm British and because I grew up listening to the Philip Jones Brass Ensemble recording. And although I did some playing with Empire Brass in the early 90s, I've never really played permanently in a quintet. So I've never got to play this stuff. This is actually my first serious quintet experience. So recording the Malcolm Arnold was great. I think from a chamber music perspective, the Vivaldi was really wonderful. And to sit next to those two trumpet players and hear them go off like sentimental missiles, is really an experience, to hear how they work together and just to fit in and try and be a small piece in the jigsaw puzzle to make it, work was really great. So I think, yep, Vivaldi. Yeah, the trombone is kind of like this connection between, the higher-ish instruments, the horn and the trumpet and the tuba. It's sort of like it's a little bit of the meat in the sandwich sometime. And it's not, as far as I can see, it's not much of a solo instrument. We are there to serve others, I think. Although, occasionally we get the solos and we go in the spotlight. What it is that linking thing. It's what can I do to connect the bottom to the top, and what can I do to make the trumpet player's job more easy? They have the difficult job, I don't. And so I think also dynamically, it's a very interesting key in the quintet, because when it needs to be driven, you can do that. But it's very important that when it's quiet, that you really make sure that those dynamics are sensitive and not too pushed. A lot of the parts for the trombone, frankly, are not that interesting to play if you take them on their own and look at. But if you look at your role in the chords, if you look at your role in supporting others, and you get pleasure out of supporting others, which I do, which is, I see it as being a great and often neglected skill, then I find it really fascinating. I love it, particularly with such good players to work with. I think you got to realize I'm speaking from my perspective because I play really fast and I like playing high. And I think most of the standard trombone writing in quintets, if you look at quintets over the years, if you look at Empire Brass, it was kind of really largely for the trumpets, and the Philip Jones Brass Ensemble always had a superstar trumpet player. There was Philip, then Elgar Howarth, and then Jimmy Watson, and then Rod Franks. So there was always about this superstar trumpet player. If you look at Canadian brass, so much of the repertoire is based around the trumpet. So I think historically it's been set up that, the leading voices in a quintet, are the trumpet things. Yeah, in the Arnold, I've got my sort of things to do. But I must say, I would love to have some more repertoire written that stretched the trombone a little more than what there is there. It's an interesting thing. I think it's been a long time since an audience has been interested in a quintet because of who's in it. If you look at the name, a lot of quintets get a good reputation and they're excellent groups, but they're sort of like have based themselves as chamber groups, and they've built a name and they've built a reputation. It's not very often that people would look at it and say, well, oh, he's in it. And wow, because we were already well-known players before we came together. So the actual musical and technical abilities of the group is starting at a very high starting point before we start rehearsing. So those two trumpet players know what they're doing. They can bloody play. I mean, I've played with all of the world's great trumpet players going back to 1980, all of them, on every continent in the world, and they are two of the finest without any question. They both have unique and remarkable skills. So what you can hear me already is like, I already have an immense respect for the people that I'm sitting down with. So that's a good starting point. It's not like, what are we going to do? It's, sometimes I sit down and feel like saying, thank you for letting me play with you, because it is so good. What's so exciting about it is we liked each other right from the beginning. And that's the most important thing, because as we all know, in any kind of relationship, if you can't talk to each other, it's not going to work. And we have the sort of mutual respect is such that rehearsals are an absolute pleasure. And we do get the work done, and we can talk to each other. And I think everyone has the ability to express themselves freely and to give their feeling about something. But I think we also know when to shut up, which is also important. You know, it's like when I feel, you know, one of the trumpet players or Lasso or something, you know, has a big musical idea, it's like, we're going with you. That's what we're going to do. And everybody, I think, has the freedom to express themselves, but also respects the opinion of others. There's a lot of spontaneous things that happen where you don't need to discuss it. You know, the radar is out, we're listening to each other. And I think it's always, as you will know, it's always much more fun when something happens in a chamber group spontaneously, when someone expresses something and the whole group moves in that direction. And so there's very little scripted. There's very little, when we get here, we do this, when we do this, cadences, repeats, yeah, okay. But if someone does something in a phrase, if Jeroen does something, or if I do something, he'll do it more, or we'll play tennis with each other, and that's beautiful. And that's rare. That doesn't happen very often. And that I think is the thing that makes me prioritize this quintet's work in my diary now. If we have a chance to do something, I put it in my diary because I love doing it.